Hey everyone, welcome to Wilson Builds. If you're new here, I'm Zach. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you're returning from a previous video or the other social medias, thank you very much for your continued support. I'm very excited for today's episode because we are finally working on the 66 Nova. All right, so I'm very excited to get on the 66 with you guys. We're at a really good kind of standstill point on the 40 where I could probably just push in the corner for, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks. Just take a little bit of a break on it so we don't get burnt out and start working on the 66. Now, while we've been working on the 40, you've probably seen this in the background. And while we have been doing all the 40 videos, I've been collecting parts for the Nova. And you probably saw the title. We are putting a G-Comp front end in this thing. So I've been collecting other parts, you know, some trim parts, some interior bits, but we're really gonna be focusing on the starting stage of getting that G-Comp in, because realistically, there aren't really any videos of that G-Comp. I mean, there's videos up to getting the clip in, but not putting it back together. So I'm really happy I can finally get on this project and show you guys the process of doing that. So this 66 is basically a good example of pretty much bone stock. There's some tastefully modified parts on the motor like the valve covers, intake, carburetor, air cleaner. But other than that, it is still all 4 drum brakes with single pot. It has a bench seat and nothing else has really changed. The previous owner, from what I understand, took really good care of it. And I believe he was the second owner, so I'm the third owner. And there is some little quirks with it and stuff like that, but nothing too major. And it's perfect for what we wanted, because if I bought a highly modified one already, it kind of defeats the purpose of building cars. I wanted a pretty much bone stock one that I could tastefully modify, that I know hasn't been treated poorly and so on and so forth. So when I found the G-Comp front end from Speedway, I was really happy that that's a really affordable option with actually some really good parts. It takes away the crappy steering, gives you rack and pinion, you get IFS in the front, and basically just kind of makes it a little bit more updated. Now they also make a kit for the rear, but I'm happy with what I have in the rear already, so I'm just going to focus all my efforts on the front end. So with the kit, you get a lot of stuff, including everything you see here besides the brakes. Now all the other pieces are safely being stored in the trunk. So this is the only thing that obviously didn't fit, and our suspension choice. So this is all the recommended stuff from Speedway. I just thought it's probably the easiest. So I don't know if we're gonna get quite there in this video, but we're definitely gonna start disassembling what's in there. So probably take the fenders off, bumper, grille, hood, and see where we get to. So first things first, let's just pop the hood and get a bit of a game plan on what we're gonna be doing here. All right, so what you see here is a 283 with a 2-speed power glide, phenomenally running motor, great working transmission. So I don't know why I'm taking it out. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. However, if you're putting something with a little bit more power and it's gonna suit the car a little bit better, maybe we'll make an exception. So we're building a really cool little small block 350 for this, coupled with a 700 R4 transmission. So it should be a lot better for this car. And long story short, we're taking this motor and transmission out, putting it in the 40. So the next step of the 40 actually requires us to have this motor and transmission out so we can do clearances, making sure we don't need to cut into the firewall or what have you. So we're actually killing 2 birds with 1 stone pulling this out. I don't know if it's gonna come out today, but we should make a game plan on kind of disassembling everything. So I'm gonna start with the battery, all the little stuff, and then collectively start working towards more of the bigger stuff like the fenders, grille, bumper, hood, etc. It'd be really nice to take apart everything and then have it really easily accessible to pull the motor out. So let's just start pulling things out. I'm gonna make a quick mental note of what tools I need, and then we'll put you on time lapse and just start taking things out. All right, everything is off that we could take off. Front fenders on both sides, valence, grille, bumper, etc. So I think we can start picking away at the motor now. So I can start draining the radiator. We'll pull the radiator and figure out what we're going to do next. It might be pulling the motor. It'd be really nice if I could pull the rad support, so it'd be super simple to pull the motor out. So we'll adventure there, but let's get this drained and we'll figure out what we're doing next. Okay, so everything has been pretty simple thus far. No real challenges. A couple bolts with strip threads and stuff we had to work with, but nothing has broken yet, and everything has come off somewhat fairly simple. I'd say this progress here has been like a 3 out of 10 difficulty, and it's actually been quite enjoyable to do. However, we're at a bit of a standstill because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rivets we're going to need to grind down and pound through. And once those are done, I think this rad support will just come out. So fingers crossed it's that easy. However, we might have a little bit more of a challenge awaiting us in this section. So let's get to it. All right, we're all ground down now. I have no idea where my air hammer is though, so I'm gonna try to drill them out. They shouldn't be too hard, but I guess we'll see where we get to. All right guys, it's getting late, so I'm gonna call it for today. We will be back first thing tomorrow morning to start kind of doing the pre-pull jobs, disconnecting the exhaust, drive shaft, taking the carburetor off, putting the lift plate on, and so on and so forth. All the little jobs that will obviously make it possible to pull the motor. And the motor and transmission are gonna come out in one go, so it's gonna be pretty simple. And then when the motor's out, it should be pretty simple to pull the clip off, but we'll have to see where we get to tomorrow. So anyways guys, we will see in a few seconds, I suppose. It'll be, a couple hours for me, but we'll see you tomorrow. All right, day 2 of the Nova teardown. So we're gonna start trying to pull out the motor. So we're gonna take all the necessary stuff off, like the fan, the exhaust manifolds, get underneath and unhook the exhaust. Might be a bit more of a challenge than I'm expecting. However, the engine mounts look easy to get at. We're gonna have to disconnect the gas line, unbolt the transmission, drive shaft, stuff like that. So let's just see where we get to. I'm not gonna stop until this motor is out today. So let's try our hardest just to start taking everything out. Okay, so I think we are ready to pull the motor. Might be missing something. I'm not too sure. We have motor mounts unbolted, transmission unbolted, our drive shaft is unbolted, all the grounds, everything like that is unbolted. All the wires that were attached to the motor are off. So I guess we just try and lift it and see what we get snagged on, see what happens. I'm gonna have to push the car out a little bit that way so we can get the engine hoist in here, but shouldn't be a big deal. So let's just give it a shot. All right, just like that, the motor is gone. So now we can start working on the subframe. So there's a few things we have to do to prep for taking the 4 bolts here, 4 bolts here, 3 there, and 3 there. And that is, we gotta firstly take out our steering column out of our steering box. And there might be some other little things, but we'll figure that out kind of as we go. So let's start disconnecting all the rag joint and stuff like that and see if we can get the steering column out. And then we'll put our jack stands underneath our subframe, kind of right back there where it's attached to the body still. And then unbolt this and hopefully roll this out. So let's start with our steering column first. So just my luck, I got the steering column out, but I didn't click record. So there you go. Steering column is out. It fought us a little bit, but it's out of the way. That's the most important part. So I cut the brake lines on both sides and moved the gas lines back behind the firewall. So there's really nothing stopping us from taking the clip off now except for the bolts we have to undo. All right, we're back. Day 3. Let's get this clip out. All right, so I'm just gonna jack up the front end so we can get our jack stands underneath the rear subframe. Doesn't need to go up too much. You just want it up enough where there's tension off the suspension from what I understand, so we'll get it that way. Right about there is probably good. So from what I understand, we put it right behind here like so. Is there a good spot to put it in? We'll try it on both sides. All right, now that we're all jacked up, we can take the 3 bolts out of the top on both sides and the 4 on the bottom. So a total of 14 bolts. And then this thing should just roll away and get out of our lives. But then we could probably start putting the new front clip on and it'll look pretty awesome and kind of make it all worth it, I think. Anyways, let's get the impact out, start popping the do these inner bolts first. They are 5/8. Hey Bella, watch out. All right, 2 done. 6 more to go. Whew. All right, moment of truth. Let's see what happens. Oh, it's gonna go backwards. I'm gonna take the jack completely away. I could probably just deal with it with my feet here. Whoa, we're separated. Stuck on the exhaust. Okay. Not gonna balance there. However, get the jack underneath it. Yeah, I'll sit there for a minute. Really cool. All right, so I'm just gonna roll this outside, but upon first glance, everything looks really good actually. Besides, there is one kind of crappy patch panel here. So I'm wondering if there's something ugly underneath here. So we'll pop that off, and if there is, we'll fix it. Not a big deal. We have access to it now. But everything else looks really good. So let's get this outside and we'll continue. All right, so we have our new front clip here. We have where we're gonna put it here. I wanna clean those up, paint all that, make it all new. I'm gonna get rid of a lot of these wires, probably take off the master cylinder here, the single pot, and then clean up these wires. I know these do not work, so I'm probably gonna remove those. I've never ran a car with a heater, so many of you may cringe. However, I only drive my car in fair weather. I'm never gonna drive this where it's gonna be cold enough to use a heater, so I'm probably gonna take that out and fill that hole and make this whole firewall look really good. I mean, if you think it's a bad idea to take that heater out, say otherwise. So there's the extent of the rust. I mean, it was spot welded on. You can see where the patch covered. This is not a hard fix. I mean, it's not even that bad, truthfully. So, I mean, this bolt, I actually don't know what that does, but these 3 bolt holes are the most important. That one doesn't have a threaded nut on the bottom, but when we cut this out, we'll be easily able to put one of those in. But again, easy fix. I don't know why people do this. If you can put a plate on and spot weld it, you can cut a plate out and weld it properly in here. So we'll be doing that. Maybe get our shrinker stretcher out again and just follow this line. Maybe we just weld a patch in there. I'm not too sure yet, but whatever we will do will be better than this. All right, so we're sitting in there not too bad. You can see I got all 4 bolts lined up on this side. However, we don't have 4 bolts in on this side because it is off just a tidge. So if you look at the gap here, from this flange corner to here, it's way smaller than there. I can almost fit my finger in there. And the holes match that. So it's about 1/8 off the holes on this side. If we put the bolts in on this side, it'd be the same issue on this side. I've already checked. So what do we have to do? We have to file out the holes just a little bit to nudge it over and get those gaps right. From all the measurements I do, these are actually, these pieces here and this are in the right spot. They're totally fine. It's just probably when they welded this on the jig at Speedway, it was just a little bit off. And apparently that's quite a normal occurrence when buying these kits, because obviously they welded on the jig. These cars were built all differently. It could be an 1/8 off. It's not a big deal if we file out a little bit. So I just took the tape measure and measured kind of everything side to side, up and down, corner to corner, everywhere I could measure that I think would be important. And the most we're out in any scenario besides the bolts is a 1/16. So I'm pretty happy with that. So yeah, let's just start working to get this to fit. All right, so I've measured again several times because this needs to be correct. So what I'm gonna do is, now that we've moved it over, it's like less than a 1/16 off on that side and this side. So I'm just gonna drill the top corners where I can access with a drill, and then we'll put our bolts through, somewhat tighten them down, not torque them down, but tighten them down enough. And then we'll start following suit as much as we can with the other holes, making marks and doing what we have to do to make this fit. So let's do the corners, put the bolts in, and then go from there. All right, so we have our top and bottom holes on the outside on both sides. So now we have to work on the holes on the inside, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are gonna be a little more tricky because I can't get the drill in there, so we're gonna have to pull the whole thing off. I'm gonna have to carefully mark it with our scribe and just file away what we need. All right, so as you can see, that is about as much as we need to take off. And voila, we are in everywhere we need to be. So,
says in the instructions the next step is not to tighten these down, get the bolt on, or get the nut on rather, cinch it a little bit tighter, and then put the braces that go from here to there. Okay, let's get our support tubes in place. So obviously, big flange piece goes up here. It actually has a lot of spacers, as you can see. When we took it apart, we took about, I don't know, a ½ inch of spacers out, maybe less than a ½ inch. They're all kind of crusty, so they're kind of blown up a little bit more. So we can always change those after the fact. So let's just line this up with a hole up here first off. Just for reference, I'm not going to tighten it or anything. Now there's 2 size bolts for this. Now the 1 inch, the longer one obviously, goes at the front, where they want the shorter one at the back. So let's just get a little bit of anti-seize on here. So everything's lining up really good. All the holes up here line up. Mind you, we still have to repair this little bit of rust. However, that's the whole point of putting it kind of loosely together, is making sure everything works. So we'll just loosely put that guy up, see if it works, do all our measurements again, and then we can start really assembling the new front end. All right, so we're all mocked up. I'm really happy with where we got to today. The disassembly was super straightforward. The reassembly mock-up was super straightforward. A little bit of a pain that we had to bore those holes out for the subframe connector, but it is what it is. I mean, no car is perfect. This is obviously built on a jig at Speedway, and obviously there's going to be discrepancies between their jig and my car that, you know, it could have been a little pull here and there. There's all variables that can make it just a little bit off. And it was only a little bit off, not a big deal. Just made sure we measured really, really well, you know, every angle you can to make sure that it's going to be perfect. And there might be some discrepancies still after doing all that measuring. However, I'm going to leave the full reassembly of the suspension until the next video we do, so part 2 of the G-Comp front end. But I'm really happy we got with the disassembly and where we got to. So thank you very much for watching. If you're stoked for part 2, hit that notifications button so you know when we're uploading. And if you liked the video, again, like, comment, subscribe. I love to see you guys comment where you're from and what you're working on. So feel free to share that. Or if you're not working on anything, just tell me your favorite car. Or tell me what you like about 66 Novas. Or tell me what you dislike about 66 Novas. But anyways, guys, I really appreciate the support, and thank you for tuning in to Wilson Builds today, and we will see you in part 2 of the 66 Nova.